Welcome to the Resilient Golf Improvement Podcast. Very excited to bring a new guest today, Toby Flenderson. Everybody, welcome, Toby.
Yes, HR extraordinaire. That's me.
For those who don't know the reference, Toby Flenderson was a character on the TV show The Office, the US version. Zach and I both love The Office, and boy, did you throw my wife for a whirl with the Toby Flenderson reference. She has access to my calendar and more or less all of my dollars. And she saw Toby Flenderson had booked a bookkeeping meeting and she got all excited. And she's like, hey, who's Toby Flenderson? Also, why is Toby using Zach's email? Somehow she recognizes your email too. Anyway, yeah, I like it. I think you should book all of our conversations as an alias. So
I've done that. I think I was Bryson one of the times. Yeah, I think I've gone through a couple different iterations. I'll keep having aliases here to keep you on your toes.
excellent. Okay, so we've gotten that out of the way. I have to start by sharing news with you. I did something for our last podcast that I thought, I don't know, might help people. I'm trying to help. I actually, we spent a lot of time talking about your speed training questions, and I put a title to the podcast that was related to that. And lo and behold, more people listen to that podcast than any of our recent months. So, I mean, if you can keep me on track of trying to actually help other golfers, we might get to, 1,000 listeners someday. I mean, that would really be something.
Aspirational, yeah, for sure. One step at a time here.
So yeah, we talked about speed training last time, and we're going to talk about it more today, but with the term redneck associated with the word, sneak preview. But before we do that, we actually have a new segment of the podcast I've been meaning to do for the last several times. We're going to do a product review, and you get to react in real time to this. One of my Twitter followers was nice enough to think that we had enough podcast listeners to garner advertising rates. He launched a new product and wanted to advertise on, some podcasts. Well, we don't have enough listeners for that. I told him I'd be happy to check it out. And so he sent me this thing in the mail and was messing around with it with my son the other day. So now I will introduce you to Partees.
Parties. Okay.
Partees. As you can see, I have a small bag full of tees in it, and you hang it from your golf bag, and it's essentially a gambling game. The rules are you pull one from the bag, you rotate who does it until the round is complete. You don't want to, it says you're a bitch. And if you break it, it's one stroke penalty. I don't know. But anyway, okay, so here's the idea, right? You go to tee off, you pull one of these things out, you read the thing. This one says, play anyone's drive. That's it. So that's your game for that hole. You pull another one out. This one says, no wedges. There's, I don't know, 20 or 30 of these. You pull another one out. Move any shot 3 steps. Okay. Zach has not seen these. So real-time reaction. Would you gamble with this with your son or any of the boys at the club? What do you think?
Yes. Well, caveat: if I played enough rounds where I could actually take the time to play some goofy rounds like that, then I'd be all in. The problem is I care enough about my handicap, and I only get X number of rounds to play that I don't really have any interest in playing goofy games if I'm only playing once a week. So if I took my son out, yeah, that'd be awesome. Play 6 holes or whatever and goof around like that. Yeah, that'd be fun. But probably not with the guys in the Friday afternoon group. I'm hitting cups on those days.
Hitting cups. Yeah. So I actually, last time we talked, I had ended the podcast by telling you I was getting ready to go to the course, and that's actually on our list to talk about as well. Yep. So the partees were taken out there, and my son partook. Is that? I don't know.
I see what you did there.
Is that? I don't know. That seems okay. His interaction with these was to pull one out look at it and go, nah, and then pull another one out and go, I don't want to do that either. And then he just played the hole as normal. But I think for the right group of guys, like you get like the kind of drinking vacation guys that are tired of all the games they've been playing and they're on their third nine or fourth nine for the day. Like I think this would be super fun to have around, is my guess.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, an afternoon 18 after a morning 18. Yeah, a couple cocktails in, or an emergency nine. Yeah, I could see that coming in pretty handy for situations like that.
Yeah, so I hope they sell some. And, thanks for sending them over. Okay, so I told you I would tell you about my golfer. You insisted on hearing about my golf because I texted you after the round my results. Do you remember the results of my 8 holes of golf
I
after our
do.
last
And the
podcast?
reason why I told you that I wanted you to talk about it is because I'd like the guy that teaches me golf to actually play golf. Like, I think that,
Hmm.
I mean, I think that'd be, that's kind of an important part. So yeah, with the fact you actually like played and played well, I thought was pretty remarkable. But you told me that you made 2 birdies in these 7 or 8 holes you played, and you only used 3 clubs, which I thought was very impressive. And so I would like a swing by swing breakdown of those 2 birdie holes, please.
I don't even think I remember. One of them, one of them was a par three. So I took 3 clubs. We used my son's bag, and I put driver, 9 iron, and my lob wedge, which is 58. So one of the holes is like a par three playing 125, too long for the 58, too too short for the 9 iron. So I basically chipped a 9 iron to about 12 feet and rolled that in with with the edge of the wedge, just putting over the center of the ball. Have you ever done that, by the way? Like, I actually saw, I think, one of the tour players who lives in Kansas City. What's his name? Robert something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
There's a guy on tour now that lives in Kansas City.
Yeah, or that is from Kansas City. I can't think of his name. Robert Streb. Do you know Robert Streb?
I know the name. Yeah.
Okay, years ago, maybe recently, like he actually finished a round putting with the edge of his wedge. Do you ever do this? I actually think it's kind of good practice for putting.
Yeah, well, I mean we've played goofy like 3 hole or 3 club holes before, and I've had to do that. Yeah, it's maddening. I mean the sweet spot's the size of a pinhead, but
Hmm.
yeah, it probably is good practice.
And then the other birdie, it must have been on one of the par fours, but I couldn't tell you anything about it for the life of me. I mean, I think the other thing I texted you was that, I mean, the main, if I keep track of any stat in my head, it's just foul balls. It's like, do I hit anything off the map? And those 8 holes with a couple practice shots included as well, I didn't miss any shots. No foul balls, which, for not playing in a while, it was nice. But it's a small sample, and as I highlighted at the end of the last episode, I don't give a fuck. Um, in a traditional sense, I of course care. I really do care who would record podcasts about golf that nobody listens to if I didn't care a lot. So that was my round. Have you been out since?
No, no, I've just been in my simulator room, and then I did go to the big simulator place in town over Thanksgiving break because I can actually hit driver there, and my brother was in town, so we wanted to go a place where we could spread out a little bit and have a couple drinks. So I did that once, but yeah, no, golf is not happening in Northwest Ohio for the next 4 or 5 months here.
Yeah. I have to ask that we make a hard shift into a tweet you posted. I want to say this morning. I follow you on Twitter. I'm one of your 8 followers.
Well, if you don't count the bots, yeah, I've got eight real human followers, I think.
Have
Yeah.
you lost a bunch of followers recently? I've lost like 100 in since the election. They've just I've lost like 150 bots.
Well, all those pro Kamala Harris tweets that you had out there, that's probably why. But no, but if I lost 100, I would lose all of them. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
I don't really pay attention, but it doesn't seem like I've dropped one way or the other. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just assume that. I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but I basically haven't been posting anything, so it's not like I'm pissing anybody off. Okay, but you posted something today about your workout, and since this is a workout podcast, let's let's dig in. You mentioned your body weight and bench pressing in your last set. Could you tell me what happened? I'm as somebody who weighs 95 pounds. I'm curious about this.
Yeah, it may not be as significant of a milestone for the people that are smaller on here, but yeah, I've never focused on the bench press really. I mean, I know that's the one that all the meatheads care about. I'm introverted enough that I never want to ask for a spotter, and I'm scared of choking myself to death by
Yeah,
failing on the last rep, right?
yeah.
Um, but recently, I found a way to bench in the power rack, so the rack that you actually squat in, and
Oh,
you set the safeties. If you're benching properly, then your chest is kind of up anyway. Your back is arched a little bit, and so you set the safeties. So if you fail, it comes back on the safeties, and then you can roll the bar to your waist and then kind of shimmy out. So
oh,
I've
okay.
practiced to make sure that if I fail, I'm not going to die. And I like on lighter weights. So I've done it like with
Yeah,
135 on the bar and I'm able to do it. So
yeah,
I can bench now knowing that if I fail, I'm not going to die, which was especially important this morning because my 11-year-old was at the gym with me. So for me to die and for him to witness it, probably not great, right?
it'd be a bad day.
Yeah, but I've so now that the golf season's over, I've been doing this 4 day kind of a more strength focused, traditional powerlifting type program, and it called for me to put 210 on the bar today, and so I did, and I just needed to get one rep in order to progress. But I got to three, which I thought was awesome because I'd never, up until last month, I'd never put more than 185 on for bench. I just never
Hmm.
wanted to practice it. Didn't want to kill myself, never did. So I'm, getting up there and weight, kind of testing my limits, and getting three of those today felt really good. So yeah, I had to tweet about it to all my adoring fans.
I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I wouldn't be interested in it at all if I couldn't somehow make it about me and my own lifting.
Absolutely, yes,
So
for
I,
sure.
I
Let's
live
hear it.
I lift I lift three different weights like through the week, like heavy, medium, and light. And the my heavy day I work out with my body weight, which is like right around 145. And so I don't know, is this like I do like on the weeks I do the most reps, I do 10 reps twice. Is that a lot for somebody my size? Like I don't work out with anybody, so I don't have any reference. So when I see you say doing your body weight three times and I know I do mine 20, like basically could I beat you at arm wrestling is kind of my question.
That's the question. Um, so you're benching 145 for 20? Is that what you said?
I mean, I do two sets of 10.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I mean, are you gassed at the end of 10, or are you still have a couple reps in reserve there?
Well, no, so I used to for years. I've done the same workout for a long time. I used to do on my heaviest days 12 reps. So I do
Okay.
24. I do 12, and that 23rd and 24th rep with no spotter was pretty scary. And
I
so eventually I got down. I was like, I'll just do 10. And honestly, it's like, as you probably know, it's like with pacing, I think with slightly slower, less reps and being able to control the pace and the weight better, you can probably get just as good or better a workout on the 10 reps than I would with 12, where I'm like trying to, bounce it off my
correct.
chest as fast as
Correct.
possible. So,
Yes. So the strength standard, sort of like the 1.0, if you're not on juice, if you're not lifting 8 times a week or whatever, would be if you look at
where
the
do
big
you get
four.
your juice, by the way? I meant to ask you.
That's off mic. We'll talk about that later.
Different
But
podcast.
yeah, for sure. So if you look at the big four, the overhead press, I'm aiming for zero point 0.8, so 80% of my body
Mm-hmm.
weight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bench press 1 to 1.2, squat 1.5 to 1.7, and then deadlift twice. So if I can get to those numbers, and that's just for one. And I try not to max out very often just because that's so fatiguing. But you can use calculators online And if I put a
Oh,
3 rep
right.
max in, it'll spit out a assumed 1 rep max. So I'm
Mm.
trying to work my way up to those numbers. During the golf season, I always lose strength because I work out less, and I don't go for great big PRs just because I don't want to be gassed before I go play golf. But now that I'm, in the off season, I'm going to try to actually get to some of those numbers before I taper back off in April or May.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, that helps clarify, you know, the level of elite that I obviously am. Okay.
For sure. Yeah, I'm preaching
Um,
to the choir here. Yeah, absolutely.
no, it's like, I'm sure it's scales with your size. So it's not near as impressive as it sounds. Okay. Let's get into real golf stuff. I thank you for anybody who made it this far. And, um, maybe I'll make a note that you can skip the first 15 minutes if you actually came for the golf stuff. Um, well, you and I were texting back and forth between podcasts based on a topic we talked about during the last podcast, which was practice volume. I had been kind enough to tell you that you don't practice during our last chat, which of course I meant in jest, and I was actually trying to quantify what it is that you've done in the last 12 months as a way to say help people understand. The term I like to use is, say, a minimum buy-in, right? If we can borrow from poker a little bit, maybe you could break down kind of the conclusions we came to in that text, if it's fresh in your memory.
The numbers aren't fresh. No, I mean I remember the end result was we got to, I think, was it 10,000 reps by the time we figured out what a rep was. But
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't remember how we got there. So you're the statistician. Why don't you get us there numbers
Sure.
wise?
Yeah. So the basic thesis I have is that for building phases or improvement phases, right? Let's make a distinction between the difference between building and maintenance, right? We can go back to working out. Like, the amount of effort it takes to make significant gains is very different than the amount of effort it takes to maintain them once you've gotten there, right? I assume you'd sign off on that rough
Absolutely,
rough claim. Okay, so
absolutely.
so golf's no different. The current amount of effort I have to put in for maintenance is relatively low compared to what it took for me to do what I've done. And you're going to experience the same thing, presumably over the next year, as we likely enter a more of a maintenance phase, and you kind of push into the marginal gain area of your process. So what my thesis revolves around is the idea that for a building phase, making any kind of meaningful swing changes, that it's kind of 10,000 reps over the course of 12 months, which, if we were to break that down over, say, let's go 50 weeks to make it simple, right? So 200 reps a week, um, over 50 weeks. And if you're doing 3 practice sessions a week, that's about 70 reps. And of course, I'm not going to do all the math for folks, but you get the idea. So kind of walk us back through the last year, and let's revisit how you got to 10,000. If we're needing to get to about 200 a week over 50 weeks.
Sure. So when you and I met, thanks to the Twitter algorithm, it was really perfect timing because it was right when my simulator room was built, but I didn't have the hardware. So I had this space in my house. I mean, it was November, either October or November of 2023. So I had this space in my house where I could swing the club, but I really couldn't hit a ball or couldn't get any feedback from the ball yet because I didn't have a launch monitor in there. I didn't have a screen. If I would have hit an actual golf ball into the wall, it would have gone through the drywall, right? So I was I was really limited to just swing mechanics and visual feedback by recording it or doing it in front of a mirror. So that was where the first, let's call it 2 months of this. So if it's, 300 or 400 a month, is that the number we came up with, or what did we come up with?
per month. Well, so we have to kind of at least 200 a week. So this counting
Oh,
practice swings as
okay.
well.
Okay, so let's 200 a week. Let's say the first 1,600 reps there, because the first 2 months were really no feedback with a ball, or if I had a ball, it was like it was a foam practice ball, right? And no launch monitor, so I had no idea, if the face was open or closed. I'm only hitting it, 8 feet from one side of the wall to the other. Um, but I could see through the videos that I was taking for you and through the mirror practice that I was getting the club at the top closer to where it was supposed to be. So I had the visual confirmation that at least optically it was doing, or I was doing what I was supposed to. And then 2 months in, I think it was December, maybe January, I actually got the equipment, got the room set up, and got the launch monitor set up so I could start to see the actual feedback with the ball, and I could actually incorporate a real golf ball. And that was equal parts good and bad. That was when, and if people have heard the pod before, all the shanks that I was hitting, that was sort of like the apex of Shankville, right? I mean, and it was maddening, but I continued working it. And gradually, the shank percentage, and I've said this on here before, went from 80% of my shots to 60 to 40, all the way down to I hit less than 5% of my shots now. I do that, but I think it was going back to the beginning of my lecture here. I think it was very important to have that first month or two where I couldn't get any feedback with a ball, because I may have gotten too frustrated at that point to even continue, because it was a huge shift from having the club way across the line, my wrist way cupped, to fixing it to where it is now. That was in terms of training your body and all of that, and the muscle memory thing, that took a long, long time.
Yeah. And if we fast forward to say March, right? You're getting ready to
Yeah.
get on the course. Give everybody kind of a breakdown of, you know, what a week looked like just with respect to volume. So was it 7 days a week at 30 reps a day? Was it 3 days a week? How did you get in that 200 a week neighborhood, say in March?
And these are practice reps, right? We're not talking about on course, because we're in
Correct.
March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not keeping score reps. So it could be on course if you're practicing on the course, but like
No, no, no. Okay, so I mean, every day I would at least swing the club between 10 to 20 times, right?
okay,
So that was sort of the 7 days a week. Even if I just go in my sim room for, and
baseline.
don't even turn the screen on. So I just have the launch monitor, right? Which I get all the data on the launch monitor head. So even if I just go in there and hit 10 wedges, or, 8 wedges and 8 9 irons or something like that, that was sort of baseline. That was every day. And then I would say 2 to 3 days a week, I would hit probably 50 to 80 balls in what I would call an actual practice session. And so that's how that was sort of
Mm,
baseline, really the entire season. I mean, unless I was
yeah.
gone, traveling for work, or unless I was on a vacation or something, that was baseline. Even during the golf season, I would still go in every day and hit, or at least swing the club intentionally, like getting in my positions and
Yeah.
actually practicing, 10 to 20 times at minimum.
Yeah, honestly, I love that so much. I put in a big week this week practicing on Tuesday after my first 1,000 hands of poker for the morning. I hit 18 balls and was like, yeah, that's good. I don't, the Garmin app has a little counter on it for the sim, and I got to that number, and that is about where my every once in a while I will do part of my like maintenance package. I will do like a 40 to 70 ball session, kind of in the way you were doing it during your building phase. But yeah, most of my sessions are in that 20 really intentional reps. I mean, people use the term deliberate practice, but I mean there isn't a lazy rep in that group. It's nothing like the clowns hitting off the mats at the range that grab their driver first. I mean, sorry, they pull their orange whip out first Have you seen these guys? I hope
Oh,
you
I
have
have
one in your
one.
bag. Yeah.
I have one.
You pull the orange whip out, right? You bounce it off your back a few times, right? You put a dip in, right? You start setting up your bets and you call that practice. Um, so the opposite of those fellas, they don't listen to this. So it's totally fine. um, yeah. Anyway, that's a great breakdown. I love the way that you did it. It's fun to be here a year later, knowing that it worked, right? Knowing that it was you had a daily habit combined with a, you know, 2 to 3 day a week increased habit on top of it, before you ever got on the course. I mean, think about it. It's like you go last November, you probably got to 5, 6, 7,000 reps before you put in any real rounds of golf.
Absolutely.
Um, and anyway, it's just something for people to think about. If we scaled up the ladder, like what are minimum buy-ins at the tour level, what are minimum buy-ins at the, say, high level amateur level, right? If you're a college kid who's got courses, it probably gets up there in the, probably go from like 10 to 25 to 50, right? If we looked at Tiger's swing changes and we actually counted reps over the 18 months, I would be shocked if it wasn't in that range. And he, of course, built in lots of on course reps as well. But okay, part two of speed training. I got a text from you about, what did you say? Redneck speed training. I'm so excited about this. Um, I I obviously couldn't have talked you out of it last time, and don't even want to talk you out of it. I do think training at above speed is a good idea. So get everybody up to date, including me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you did talk me out of, and I think this is good, and my wife would thank you for this too. But you talked me out
Mm-hmm.
of spending the $500 on an actual speed training system, right?
Yeah.
And your point, or if I were to whittle down a 20-minute conversation in which you said we were just scratching the surface down to one sentence, I would probably just say that your point was just go swing fast with what you have now and just see what happens. So, okay, that's what I'm doing. So I'm calling it the redneck speed training just because I'm not, I don't have the weighted clubs. I don't have the fancy app. I
Mm,
just have and of all the clubs, I can't swing anything longer than a 5 iron in my sim room just because of the dimensions. So I had a pitching wedge in my hand at the end of my last little practice session, I don't know, a week or two ago. And you had sent me the TrackMan data for the average PGA tour numbers.
hmm
Now, average is funny to me because you get guys like Zach Blair, right, and guys that bunt the ball out there 260. Those are included in the average, right? So it's funny to me, and I sent that to one of my buddies who's at an assistant club pro down at a very nice course in Cincinnati. And I said, have you ever tried to even touch any of these numbers? And he basically said, no. But I took the pitching wedge and I just swung as hard as I possibly could. And I was able to get past those numbers, maybe like a mile an hour or two.
hmm
But to think, and that's with a wedge in my hand, and to think that these guys are controlled enough to be able to swing it at that speed, and that's just a wedge, right? I mean, it's crazy to me to think. But again, that was my first time, so I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to mess around anywhere between the 8 iron and pitching wedge. I've decided, and just see if I can sort of peak at those PGA average numbers a time or two,
Hmm.
and not care about where the ball goes or what the end result is.
Well,
But no,
let's
it's fun.
put some numbers on this for context. So I don't have them memorized. What is your, say, cruising speed with a pitching wedge, and what is the tour average?
So the number I was trying to get to was 83 miles an hour, which is the tour average
Okay.
according to that thing that you sent me.
And what do you swing it at just on your own naturally?
I if I'm I would say cruising speed is between 76 and 78.
Okay.
Um, and if I really want to step on one, I can get to 81, 82, and not feel like I'm really exerting myself, but also not be comfortable enough to do that on the golf course unless I had to, right? I mean,
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
I'm
think your
pretty
core?
comfortable. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Do you think your core speed is right around that, say, 75, 76 mark?
I would guess that course speed is anywhere between, yeah, south of 80. I would say somewhere 76 to
Yeah.
79.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, walk me through, the experience. You've got the metrics. You have the LOL instruction from me. What happened? How did you do it? What you sent something about lifting heavy and it not being a great experience.
Oh, that's right. That was the second part of this. This whole heavy weight training, strength training that I'm doing now, that was a deadlift day too, right? And so my back
Hmm.
was fried. And I'm like, why not pick today to swing as hard as I can and see if I can match PGA Tour averages? But yeah, I I got there. I think I got it to 84 maybe.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say if I did that 6 times, maybe half the balls, maybe three were online, and then the other three, I hooded the face so bad and just hit it off the planet left, off the
Yeah.
planet left.
Yeah. Oh,
But
can you hear me?
the other three were great. I mean, I'm probably 10 yards farther. I mean, I'm carrying pitching wedge 150, I think, which I'm normally carrying between
Yeah, that's long.
136 and 142. But
And
and it's got
what is the so for the day that wasn't the deadlift day, how did you experience, say, your technique and the associated ball flight as you swung harder?
um, it became more difficult not to go left. Is that what were the tendencies with the ball? Is that what you're asking?
So tendencies with the ball flight, and did you get any feedback on your actual positions? Did you have a camera set up to see where the club was?
No, I mean I got the launch monitor data, but I didn't. I should. The next time I do it, I'll stick a camera behind me and actually see if I'm hitting similar positions or not. I'm guessing a lot of what you and I worked on probably goes out the window when I'm swinging at that speed, and that's why I'm missing left as often as I
Yeah, it should deteriorate some. Yeah, and ideally you would pair. I say ideally. What I like is for you to pair the, say, 110% speed efforts with a feedback mechanism that focuses on the thing from our first lesson, right? So you can see the level of exaggeration required to, say, hit the position you have been on the course all summer or all year, um, at that new speed, which is really, I think, where the value comes in, because you'll be able to hit the new speed with the same positions, but it'll basically make you adopt a new feel. It won't feel like it has to you, which is, just another way to kind of level up, which I know you're interested in,
Oh, for
the
sure.
the the infinite version of it. Yeah, so ball going left, that makes perfect sense, right? It probably reminded you of some of your, say, 2022 swings, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Did you cringe? Was it painful?
No, no, because I don't have any expect because I know that I can, turn around the next swing and slow it down and not do that. Like
I,
I know how to execute.
yeah.
Whereas before I was just in the wilderness, just praying that I could figure something out to make the ball go right. I know what to do
Mm.
now to make that happen. So no, I
It,
wasn't
it's kind
sad
of a
about it.
useful exercise from that perspective as well, because you get to actually practice your recovery efforts, right? So you're on the course, you hit that snap left. Maybe you swung too hard, right? Like I got quick on that one, boys.
Yeah,
And you kind of get to rehearse for that. So yeah, glad to hear you were mixing that in. Was there anything else? Hopefully that gives you a point of feedback from me. But was there anything else you wanted to add to the speed training?
no, I think that I'll be interested. And now that I have the launch monitor associated with it, I'm actually going to keep it on a spreadsheet or somewhere. I'll be interested to see, well, two things. First of all, what I can eventually max out on, so where this is now compared to where it is in April or May, where I'll kind of
Hmm.
give this up. Um, So that I'm going to be interested in, but then also whether my cruising speed that we've talked about here, whether that
Goes
because
up.
it
Yeah.
goes up. Now that's how they sell it with these speed training systems, right? They sell it as your cruising speed going up alongside with your max speed.
Hmm.
I'm doing this, like I said, the redneck version, just not spending the $500, just swinging really hard. And it'll be interesting to see if that does train my body in a way that allows me to cruise at higher speed.
Yeah, I mean, if the cost you're currently paying does not exceed 500 emotional dollars to have to do this once a month, I don't know what would. So it's this isn't free. So glad you're doing it. Okay, so you wrote down a couple notes. Looks like you've got a couple questions. One about the sweet spot and three fingers.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was something that you had. Well, first of all, you turned me on to that podcast, and since I've been listening to like every one since you and I started talking about it. Those guys are great.
Oh, yeah, I love Adam and John.
Yeah, they're great. But they talk about they've talked with a couple guys, and they've referenced it now 2 pods in a row, and so I'm guessing that it's just terminology that I'm not familiar with because I haven't been listening for a
Mm,
long time. But they talk about aiming approach shots specifically, and they talk about it by finger widths. And so what I assume they're doing is sticking their hand up as far as they can in front of their face to the target, right?
yeah.
And one of them said that each finger for them, and it may be different for everybody, is 10 yards wide, I think. And
Oh,
so
yeah,
if
it
you,
would depend at what distance, I
well,
suppose,
right,
right?
so that, okay,
Yeah.
so that was one of the things I wanted you to confirm, but they were saying that any shot within 2 finger widths, um, well, maybe they weren't saying it, but this is how I interpreted it. Any approach shot within 2 finger width should be considered very good, like almost tour level good. And then 3 is acceptable. Now, I think that's different from 80 yards versus from 180 yards, right? But I would think that there's some. I guess the reason I'm bringing it up to you is I'm wondering whether there's some magic aiming thing to do that I haven't been doing. Whether this is just specific to the two of them,
Mm,
or how you approach aiming approach shots. That's kind of what I'm interested in on the
yeah.
topic here.
So use case. This is an Adam Young thing, and it's kind of his own redneck or hillbilly feedback mechanism. Even though he's from the UK, I mean, they probably have hillbillies in the UK, right?
Sure. Yes. Sure they
Yeah,
do.
right. I won't do my accent. I do it a lot for the kids.
I'm sure they love it.
My Harry Potter. it's uh, okay. I'm not going to do it. Um, okay, mate. All right. So it's basically for those who've never heard of it. You do. It's kind of like aim point, but for full swings, right? If you're familiar with aim point, you hold your hand out, arm out to a certain level, and kind of put your index finger on the target, and then at the edge of the number of fingers or three fingers, that's kind of your range that you're trying to hit it in. So for you, like if you're on the driving range or if you're on the golf course and you kind of want to ballpark, say, certain metrics, foul balls, what's good, what's bad, just a way to do that kind of fairly quickly. That's all it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because
no.
he was talking this. It makes sense, but he was talking about, let's say there's water left. It's a 150-yard approach shot,
Mm,
water on the left side of the green. So if you aim at the middle of the green and that water is within 2 fingers left, and you then hit it in the water, um, that wasn't a bad shot. What it was bad
yeah.
strategy
Bad target. Yeah.
because you should aim at a spot. And obviously, if you need a birdie, it's different, right? Or something. But just in general, you should aim so that 2 fingers either direction is certainly not going to penalize you with out of bounds or with
Mm,
a hazard. Um, that's the goal. I guess if you're playing, conservative, highest percentage likelihood outcome golf, that's what you want to do, as opposed to
hmm.
aiming for the center of the green, missing 2 fingers left, and ending up in the water, and
Having
then
a problem.
saying you didn't hit a bad shot. You just
Yeah.
aimed too aggressively.
Yeah, I mean, there are some other references we can build on that people can use. So part of this is you see a lot of this in like Scott Fawcett's Decade. I think he uses like teaches people to visualize the flag stick as like 2 yards, and I think his main. Trying to remember, I've it's been a while since I went through his stuff. I feel like his aim point is around 5%. But it could be closer to 10. I would have to go back and look at that stuff. But I mean, I think one other metric you can use is like 6% generally is a great shot. So from 100 yards, if you hit it inside 18 feet, you've hit a great like tour level great shot. Like you've probably gained strokes on tour players.
Okay.
And if that 6% number I think scales, it's like if you go out to 300 yards. So yeah, 1% would be 3 yards, right? 6%,
Yeah.
18 yards. Yeah. So 18 yards either side, so 36-yard fairway like that. If you think about that as like say an average fairway width, that would be a great shot, not just a good shot. So yeah, another way to look at that too. But okay, you also had a question about lie angle. So a lot of male relationships that are as intimate as ours, you know, in the community, they're open, right? A lot of these relationships are open, and so you and I have had the talk, a long time ago about us seeing other people, and so you spent some time with another guy recently, which I was so happy for you to experience that, and I'm assuming this question is related to your time with him. Is it pronoun him?
Dear God. Okay. If you're going to tell people which parts of the podcast to skip, maybe minute 41 through
Oh, this
42
is
in
going to
there.
be the best part.
No,
Um,
what I did to clarify quickly before you go any further, I went and saw a physical therapist who
oh, oh, oh,
trained
oh.
in the TPI methods, which is Titleist Performance Institute.
Huh.
So,
And so you didn't hear that from what I was saying.
no, no, I think
Huh.
you were
Oh,
going a
okay.
very,
Well,
very different direction.
that's strange. All right. That's my bad.
I had blocked off my time that day to take a lesson from you, but you were busy, so I decided to go up and see this physical
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah. I was cheating as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Um, so I explained to him that historically I've had lower back injuries that have prevented me from swinging the club the way that I want to. I'm not really there right now. I'm sort of in maintenance mode, but I wanted him to take a look at my swing to see if there was anything there that was potentially problematic that was causing the lower back stuff,
Hmm.
or if I was doing anything differently because of the low back things, if I had limitations because of it. And I was also curious about, and I talked to you about it on the pod or one of my lessons, but I've got some mobility issues with my shoulders that I think causes me to have a tendency to put the club in certain places. So all of
Hmm.
that to say, went up there, did an assessment. It's not nearly as technologically advanced as if you actually went out to the TPI Institute, and I think they're in California. He didn't hook me up to any wires or anything, but he just, did a ton of mobility measurements. Uh,
Did he touch you?
no, Jared,
I'm so sorry.
you couldn't help it.
Oh,
I saw,
that one was just sitting right there.
yeah, yeah, I saw your eye light up as soon as I
Is
said that. I knew you were going to say something.
is he stretching like you're on the ground like a hamstring stretch?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
he's
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
oh
And then he
god,
actually looked at my swing, and
yeah, yeah. And,
it wasn't anything. There wasn't any huge revelation there. I mean, he gave me some isolation movements to do, some mobility stuff. I'll do it a little bit. He suggested yoga. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I've heard all this stuff before, so
hmm.
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it was cool to talk to him and have him look at my swing, and that was
Yeah.
fine.
And so you had mentioned lie angle in our notes. Was that related to this?
Well, sort of. So I got to
Oh,
think.
oh, okay.
I mean, so I got to thinking about that, and basically I came away from that not wanting to do another swing overhaul, right? I mean, I don't. There's nothing that I need to do
Yeah.
based on what he was saying. thank God, right?
Yeah.
Like I can swing the club the way I've been swinging it and not hurt myself, which is
Right.
encouraging. Like I want to be able to do this for the next 30, 40 years. So here's what got me thinking though. It seems to me my last couple practice sessions that when I hit a good shot, it has a tendency to die off left. It's not crazy. I'm talking, a yard or two. I mean, it's nothing. I'm not, it's not anything that it's not a snap hook. It's not even
Mm,
really a hook. Um, the spin axis is a little more left than I would like, but it's not awful.
okay.
So I don't know whether that's just my ball flight. I don't know whether I'm not coming as steep into it as I used to. And so because my clubs are bent a degree or two upright, that's causing the ball to do that. So what I
Mm,
really want from a philosophical standpoint is for somebody as knowledgeable about the golf swing that you are, right,
well,
to
that's
tell me
good luck.
when it makes sense to have a lie angle adjustment
Yeah.
versus when it makes sense to modify or adjust your swing to the clubs that you have. Because it seems to me like if you think that whole
Mm.
process through, you just end up completely circular, right?
I
And so
mean,
that's what.
no, I got you. I think a lot of people ask this question, right? About like, well, I'm going to get fit for clubs, but I'm going to work on my swing first, or vice versa, right? It's like, oh, I need to get refit. Um, I mean, if you are literally talking about a yard or two of, say, draw spin, it's like there's probably not much to talk about. But from a, again, philosophical perspective, I mean, I would be on the lookout for foul balls, number one. But secondarily, given the change, if you haven't been like on a lie board, if you haven't been fit since in the last year, like it would definitely be worth like checking your lie angles, like just because you might be delivering the club better than you were before. And so let's say they're at 2 degrees up right now, like it's possible that you might like the flight better at flat or what neutral. My clubs personally, I think they're like a degree flat. But I'm 5'3", so I need those short clubs. Yeah, I would definitely look into it. I mean, you got something to do in the winter. Have you been fit since? Have you had lie angle measured?
So I took them up. When was it? It was pretty early on. It was before the season started last year. So you and I started working together in November, and I went up to. There's a place called Miles of Golf in Ypsilanti,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, which is cool. It's awesome. I got fitted for a putter up there. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, I told them I didn't want new clubs. I just wanted to, be put on a lie
Right,
board.
just get measured. Yeah.
And the guy, I mean, he was fine. You're hitting crappy range balls, right? I mean, they have a TrackMan, but what's the point in having a $50,000 unit if you're hitting shitty golf balls, right? It's strange. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, he decided that what did he do? Wedges through 8 iron. He made 1 degree, so we bent them flatter 1 degree, so
Mm-hmm.
they're 1 degree upright instead of two. But then he said that I came in steeper with 7, 6, and 5 iron, and so he left those at 2 degrees. I think is what he
Okay.
decided. But
Okay.
again, that was in April of 24, and you and I continued to work all through this season, and obviously things are different now. I don't know if the swing's actually different, but things are different now because I was an 8 at the time and I'm a
Yeah.
4 now.
I would
Something.
just think of it as a tool, like in the same way that if you put a lady shaft in your driver, right? It's got the potential to go farther with like wider dispersion.
Right.
If you really wanted to play a draw, you could set your irons at 4 degrees upright. So it's like it's more of a think of it more as like a what kind of shirt do you like to wear, right? Like as opposed to something else.
Yeah,
As opposed to it's just it's an option for you to play with. You
right.
know.
And I want, and whatever. This could just be pie in the sky stuff, but I want my stock good iron shot to be a very soft fade in my mind. because I think I can control the
Mm,
spin better, and I think I can predict the rollout better. That's what I
sure.
see with a left to right ball flight versus right to left. I think it comes in higher, it lands softer, and it's more predictable.
Yep.
And so the question for me is, do I bend the clubs to make my existing swing more likely to do that? Do I continue to work on my existing swing to teach myself how to hit a fade with the clubs I have now more
Mm,
consistently? Or is it a combination of those two? And I don't.
yeah. They're just like both of them. Like the swing shit never ends. So like that's not a dial you get to ignore. It's just a question of whether or not you want to play with the other dial and acknowledge that the other one is permanent, right?
Yeah.
So I would tell you, it's like, yeah, you've got a long way to go slash some opportunity to learn to move shift the path left with your short irons, especially because as we move the ball back in our stance and we increase the angle of attack, we make it more likely that we're going to swing out to the right. So it's extra hard with the wedges than it is, say, a 5 iron to get that left to right ball flight because of the physics of it. So yeah, just it's a dial you can tune. That's where I would tell you. But well, I know you have a hard out, so let's take the last 2 points on our list here, and I will just preview them for next time. We do previews now.
I
So
like
I gave a lesson the other day, and I was kind of laughing in my head afterwards about how fucking stupid and simple and boring I think golf improvement is now. And I don't. I'm exaggerating for effect, of course, but I want to dig into that with you and talk about how relatively simple the process is. In the same way that you have kind of a full grasp of your fitness and workout, right? You can have the same level of understanding with golf and how improvement works. And as a related note, it's we're getting to the point in the marriage where it's about time to graduate you from formal coaching and go to informal, I make fun of you relentlessly coaching. You're always welcome on the podcast, but I had a student in poker years ago that I had to stop coaching. I said, I'm not taking your money anymore. I'm happy to help you with, if you want to talk about hands, we can. And that's where things are going to go with you is, I more than happy to continue, but in a much, much less formal way, because between all the work we've done in the last year, it's like you have the roadmap, and we'll go over it in the next podcast. Um, but ultimately, just like the gym, it's like you have to do it on your own. So that's the preview. I hope you're excited.
breaking up with me on air. That's pretty aggressive.
No, please. I would love to do this for the next 10 years. Just we don't have to do the line drawing. We can we can just do the fun stuff.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, you have a barbecue or something to get to, so I
Actual work stuff to do. The lunch hour is
yeah
quickly winding up here.
put in a good word for me. I don't know. I don't have a resume, but if they're looking for like a local golf, like a private golf tutor at your company, like I could probably help out. Um,
Golf or poker tutoring, right?
yeah, I could probably do that. Yeah, decent. But awesome, man. Well, thanks as always, Toby. It was fun.
Absolutely. Have a good one.